Hey, Iris, check your mean again. And Maya, check. You know what, guys? Make sure that you this has happened before because it's on. Don't forget about this little 8 over here. Anybody miss that 8? Sorry. Well, I'll just go through it with you. So I should change that so that little 8 gets to the first line. So the mean should be 7.4 if you add these up, which I think you were close, Maya. So I may have just been missing this 8. So for the mean, you should have added everything up and then divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then the median should be 6. But again, if you forgot that 8 there, that would mess up your balance of your numbers. And then the mode was 3, which I think everybody got. And then you guys were both right on C, skewed left, right? Our peak is on the right, so our data skews to the left. So you guys were both right on that. Okay, any questions on this section? Pretty straightforward. You just have to make sure you remember those definitions and then how to calculate those. Okay. Okay, so which of the following describes an increasing trend? So I'm just going to go backwards on this because A is the answer. So increasing trend, both sets of values neither increase or decrease. Well, that would just be constant. So that would be incorrect. As one set of value increases, the other set remains constant. Well, that doesn't work either, right? Because we want both to show increasing. As one set increases, the other set decreases, right? That would be the opposite. That would be a decreasing trend. So the answer for this one is A. As one set of value increases, the other set also increases. All right, so really what I want to get to, the reason why I rushed through that is I do really want to get to our last part, which is all the geometry. So questions that you'll get on the T's for geometry will include maybe none, if you're maybe lucky if you hate geometry, or both. Would be perimeter, actually I guess 3 questions: perimeter, area, or volume. Seems like perimeter and area would be the more popular. I have had very few students come back with volume questions, but we're still going to go through it, and I still think you really should. I'll tell you exactly what I really think you should know. So the perimeter is the distance around a 2-dimensional shape. So always think about the perimeter of your property. If you had to walk the perimeter around your property, what is the distance you'd have to walk? Okay, so always miniaturize yourself and put yourself on the edge of the shape. Pretend you live in the middle of the shape and you had to walk your perimeter. That's what that means. So we calculate that by adding up all the sides of the shape. So if this is your house here and this is your perimeter of your property, you would have to walk, let's say these are meters, 7 meters, 3 meters, another 7 meters, another 3 meters before you go back to your starting point. If we add all that up, the perimeter of this rectangle is 20 meters. Okay. Now, let's say you live somewhere and you live in a circle instead. Okay. So to find the perimeter of a circle, that is called the circumference. So it means the same thing. Okay. Circumference is the perimeter of a circle. Okay, a couple of reminders about circles. We haven't looked at circles for a little while. If it's been a little bit. So here's our circle. Here's our center of our circle. The center of the circle out to the edge of the circle is called the radius. Okay, so R is radius. Okay. If we were to go from one edge all the way to the other edge, one edge to the other edge, that's the diameter. So D is the diameter. And so really, if we look at this, what does the diameter actually equal? What does the diameter actually equal in terms of the radius? If the radius is center to one edge and the diameter is edge all the way to the other edge, how could you calculate what the diameter is using the radius?
Could you times it by 2, the radius?
Exactly. So diameter is really equal to 2 times the radius, or 2r. You can write that either way. Okay, so just as a reminder, radius center to edge, diameter all the way across, and we can use the diameter to find the radius, or we could use the radius to find the diameter. Either way, they could ask you, you may have to implement that either way. Okay? Questions on that? Okay, so our circumference or our perimeter, if we lived in the center of this circle, and if I miniaturize myself right here, my little body's right here, and I wanted to walk all the way around my circle, the calculation I do for that is 2 pi r. Spotlight. Okay, so the perimeter circle is equal to 2 times pi times r. So 2 times pi times radius, right? And pi is a number that is derived, and it's complicated, and I'm not gonna say I don't understand it, but I don't understand it right now. I'd have to look it up. But on the ATs, pi will always be 3.14, and they will always give you that number from what I've seen. They don't have you memorize pi. So pi really is 3.14, and then those numbers go forever, and there's no pattern to them, so it is called an irrational number. But on the T's, it'll always be 3.14 just for brevity, just for keeping it simple. Okay, so 3.14. Now, if you do any calculations, you can Google area of a circle, and it'll have you fill in the information. Your number might be slightly off in terms of decimals, just because if you use 3.14, other calculators online will use pi to a much longer digit. So that's why. So don't be scared if you're slightly off, as you're doing some practice problems. So circumference is 2 pi r. How could we also write circumference? If we know that 2 times r is also the diameter, technically we could also rewrite this as pi times d. Okay, so this also good. So it really just depends on how you want to remember it. And I have a little saying that comes up in a little bit that will help you for area and circumference of a circle, where it uses the diameter instead of 2r. Doesn't matter. Okay, it's the same thing. Okay. All right. So what if, and this is common for the T's, what if a shape contains both straight lines and a part of a circle? Okay, so we have straight lines and a part of a circle. So let me try to draw this. My amazing drawing skills. There we go. Oop. That's terrible. All right, so we know that they're telling us this is 7 from here to here. And they give us a dotted line. And that is 12. Okay, so I'm going to pull us down. So we're going to find the perimeter of this shape. Okay, we're going to find the perimeter of the shape. Okay, number 1, if they give you a dotted line, that is indicating that they're just trying to show you the distance of something. That doesn't mean you're also walking that distance for your perimeter. So dotted line is just say, hey, this is the distance, but there's not actually a line there. So some students get confused by that. Okay. Number 2, they always give us enough information to figure out what we need to know. Okay. They always give us information. So if this line so let's look at our shape. we're going to always break our shape up into smaller shapes. It just really makes it easier. So really, we're looking at a rectangle, right? Not with this side, just dotted line, but we're looking at a rectangle. And so what I know about a rectangle, right? If this side is 7, what does this side also have to be? This also has to be 7. So I can fill that in. Okay, if this dotted line is 12, what does this line also have to be? It also has to be 12, right? So we can see our rectangle being filled in now, okay? So now we can find the perimeter so far. If I start here with my little man, and he's gonna walk my property line, he can walk 7, 12, and 7. But now we get stuck on this, right? We have a piece of a circle, okay? Right now we have a half of a circle. Okay, we have half of a circle. So we need to find the perimeter of half of our circle. Well, we know that a circumference is 2 pi times the radius, right? That would be of the full circle. So if I were to fill in the whole circle, right? This is the worst circle ever, but you get the idea. If I were to fill in that entire circle, right? The circumference of this whole thing would be 2 pi r. Well, I only want half of it. So what do you think I have to do to this equation if I only want half? Any guesses?
Make it a fraction.
So I am going to make it a fraction, but what am I? So if I only want half, what can I divide this thing by? If you want to cut something in half. Yep, I want to divide it by 2, right? So same thing you were saying, Irish, another way, sorry. One of my really good friends' name is Iris. If I wanted to do this by fraction, I could literally multiply this whole thing by a half, but it's just the same thing as dividing by 2, right? So the circumference for I'm going to call this a semicircle, is 2 pi r divided by 2. Well, what two numbers cancel? Right, 2 divided by 2 is 1. So really my circumference of the semicircle is just pi times r. Okay, so let's figure out what that is. Semicircle, pi is 3.14. What is the radius of my circle? Can someone tell me what the radius is of my circle, since I need that r? What is it? I think you said it. Yeah, it's 6. So again, if this dotted line is 12, well, that's all the way across. That's my diameter. I only need halfway. So that means really from here out to here is only 6, right? This would be 6, this would be 6, and the whole thing is 12. Okay, so my semicircle, if I do that math, is 3.14 times 6 is 18.84. Okay, so I have 18.84, so that's this up here, 18.84. I now know that's my perimeter. Now I need to add 7, I need to add 12, and I need to add my other 7. That's going to be my entire perimeter. So plus 7 equals plus 12 equals plus 7. 44.84 is my final answer. 44.84, and that was in centimeters. Okay. So I think the hardest thing with these perimeter ones is when they give you some kind of combination shape that has a piece of a circle in it. Okay, you have to be able to find the radius, or, you know, they may give you the diameter and you have to find the radius. You know, you have to find your parallel lines, you know, within the other straight lines of your shape. Okay, questions on this? All right, so let's talk area. Okay, so perimeter, we just walked our surface. Now, area is going to tell us how much surface space a shape takes up. So now we're going to let's look at our rectangle because that's one of the easier ones. So we are figuring out how much area this entire kind of like yellowish white color fills. Okay, and so to find the area of something, we just have certain calculations we have to know. Rectangle and square are going to be your easiest. Okay, so it's just the height times the width. Okay, so the height times the width. Square is the same thing, height times width, but keep in mind that all sides on a square are the same. Right, all sides on a square are the same. So really you're just taking one side and multiplying by itself. The reason why I tell you this is because sometimes you will get, or remind you of this, is sometimes you'll get questions like, Jim builds a square patio. The area of his patio is 25 meters squared. What is the length of one side of the patio? So you wouldn't be able to answer that if his patio was a rectangle, because if this is 25 and this is 25, you can't figure out what the two sides are without knowing one of the sides, right? Because they can be different. But a square, on the other hand, we know that both sides are the same. So if his area is 25, well, the only option could be for the side is a length of 5 meters. So this would have to be 5 meters by 5 meters would give you a total of 25. So that's why I just point out the square. If you see a square, remember your sides are all the same. So those are easy. Triangle's not too bad. So we have 1/2 times base times height. So they'll give you the base. And then whenever they give you the height of a triangle, the length of that height has to come down and create a right angle. So it'll probably look like something like either they'll just tell you the height is 5 meters or whatever, or they'll draw it in. They would draw it in the center. Let me show you what that would look like. They would draw from here, straight line, straight line, straight line, straight line, from here to here, and they would show you the right angle, and then they would label this with a number, like the number 6. Sorry, that's horrible. Okay, but that's how they represent height. Or they'll just tell you the height right in the problem. So 1/2 base, okay, is perpendicular to the height. Let's jump to circle, because that will be the next most popular. The area of a circle is pi r squared. Okay, so pi r squared. So you have to know that. You need to know the circumference was 2 pi r or 2d, either one. Area is pi r squared. And then less so of things I think that they would give you would be a parallelogram is also base times height. They would do the same thing that they did for the triangle, and they would draw the height in or just tell you. So height would be here. That should be a straight line, not crooked, and show you the right angle. That's what height is. And then same thing for a trapezoid. If they give you the height, or again, they draw straight. Oh, look at that straight line in and give you the right angle. And then they would label that. And then our last one is a rhombus. I don't think you'd ever get a rhombus, but just so you know, just so I cover my butt. So a rhombus is you take the length, corner, this opposite angle to angle. So this D1 and then D2, multiply those and divide by 2. So again, definitely, triangle, rectangle, square, and circle. These other other 3 are included in the T, I believe, in the T's book, which is why I have them. I've never had a student come back and tell me that they've had one of those, but I still think that's probably worth saying. Now, more often, I would say than not, is they'll probably do, to make a question hard, instead of giving you something like a trapezoid, they're probably going to give you something that's a combination of shapes. So that's more likely what you'll see. If you ever get a combination of shapes, break it up into 2 shapes that you know. Break it up into a triangle and a rectangle. Break it up into a rectangle and a circle, like half a circle or a quarter of a circle. Okay, That's where they make it hard. Okay, so I told you I had a little saying for circle mnemonics. Cherry pie is delicious, apple pies are too. So cherry pie is delicious. We'll give you the circumference. So C equals pi d. So cherry, circumference, pie is delicious. So pi d. And then apple pies are 2. So apple is area, pi again, and then R2 gives you the R squared. So you can use that if you're having trouble remembering the equations for the circles for circumference. Remember, circumference is perimeter. Okay, and then we have our area. Okay, so cherry pie is delicious, apple pies are too. Can be very helpful if you're struggling with anything having to do with circles.
I have one question.
Yes,
For the circumference, I thought it was 2 pi r.
it is. So circumference is 2 pi r, but what is diameter equal?
The whole entire circle.
So right, diameter is all the way across, but diameter is really just, remember I had you write this out, 2 times r. Right? So that's why. So this is saying the same exact thing. It's just that if you have trouble remembering 2 pi r, you can also just remember pi d. It's the same thing. Same thing. Okay. All right. All right, let's do some practice problems. Let's do one. Let me circle them. Let's do 1. Let's do 2. We're finding area and perimeter. Let's do 5, and then let's do this other one. So let's do those. Actually, let's eliminate this one. Hold on, eraser. Let's get rid of this one. We don't need this one. So let's do 1, 5, and 1. And we're finding the perimeter and the area for all 3. because we're a little low on time, I'm going to go over these right now. So first one that we had was this triangle where they told us the side was 7.4 and it's ends up being an equilateral triangle, right? All sides are equal. So 7.4 is 7.4. So perimeter really for this one is 7.4 plus 7.4 plus 7.4. I'm just going to be short and multiply that by 3. And so the perimeter of this one, you should have gotten 22.2. Yes, no, maybe? Yes, okay. Area for this one, area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So the area equals 1/2. The base would be 7.4, right? Because that's this bottom side, times 6.4 because they told us the height. And so our final answer for that one should be 23.68. Good? Okay. Our rectangle here. So we've got, it told us two sides. Well, on a rectangle, right, this side is the same as this side. So this is also 4.9. This side is also the same as this side, so that's 8.8. So I would add all of these up if I walked my perimeter, 4.9 and 8.8. Right, twice, so that should be 27.4. Yes, good. Agreed, okay. And then my area is just one side by the other side, multiplication, right? Length times width. So 4.9 times 8.8. So my area for that one should be 43.12. Agreed? Okay, awesome. All right, and so then that last one was that weirdo shape, which was a little bit harder. So I'm going to draw him out. I've got him right here. All right, so we've got up, down, over, under, something along those lines. And let me label what they had on here. All right, so this was labeled 8, and I'm not using any units because I'm bad. This was labeled 8. This was labeled 4, and this is labeled 16. So let's go through how to find, well, if we want to find the perimeter, okay, well, I'm going to break this up into two, I'm going to break this up into 2 different shapes. Oh, I lost all my markers. Okay, so I'm going to break this up into 2 different shapes that make it easier. Okay, so this shape up here clearly is a square because they've given me an 8 and an 8. So the only option right over here where this has to be an 8, right? Technically my dotted line is 8, but that's not going to be included in my perimeter, right? Because that's not part of my property line. My property line is only in blue. But this 8 will become important to us in a little bit, and I'll show you why. All right, so what else can I figure out? Well, I've got 16 here, I've got 4 here. Well, that means that this also has to be a 4, okay? So I'm still missing 2 lines, right? I'm still missing this, and I'm still missing this. So this is a question mark, this is a question mark, right? I'm trying to find my perimeter. So I am going to add up what I have so far, and I'm going to ignore my question marks for a minute. So I'm going to start over here at this 4. So I have 4, I have 16, I have 4, I have a question mark, I don't know, I'm going to leave it. I have 8, I have 8, I have 8, and then I've got my other question mark. So I've gotten to this problem, or this point where I've got these 2 question marks, but there's nothing down here, right, that's going to tell me what they are, right? Do you agree that I'm at a struggle point right now? Okay, but let's look at what I do know. I know that this whole line is 16, and I know this dotted line is 8, right? So that means I know that whatever these 2 question marks add up to be, so question mark, 1, question mark 2. So question mark 1 and question mark 2 have to equal what? If this whole thing is 16 and this piece is 8, what do these two question marks add up to? Can someone tell me?
4.
So if this whole thing is 16 and this piece is 8, what do these two have to add up to equal?
8.
Right, would equal to 8. So question mark 1 and question mark 2 equal 8. Now, I don't know if this is 4 and 4. I have no idea. I don't know if this is 2 and 6. I have no idea. But it doesn't matter because all I need to know for perimeter is what these two are. So now I'm just going to add another 8 at the end, and that will represent this plus this. Now I have all of my sides. Does that make sense? So that was a really, really hard one to pick out. If you struggled with it, don't feel bad about it. But now that you look at it, they always give you the right amount of information. You may not know what this is perfectly, but dang, you know what these two are together. Okay, and so if we add all those up, we should have gotten 56. Let me just make sure let me do it on time. I've got 3 minutes. Okay, so 4 and 16. And another 4, and an 8, and an 8, and an 8, and an 8. Okay, I just messed that up. 4 and 16 plus 4 plus 32. Yep, 56 is correct. Okay. So now that I've done all of that work, it actually ends up being pretty easy to find my area. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find the area of just this guy. Okay, just this guy. Well, side by side, so that's 16 times 4. So that's of the rectangle. Then I'm going to find the area of just this square, okay, to add that on. That would be 8 times 8. That's 64. I feel like this is also 64 for some reason. It is. And so my total area for here ends up being 128. Okay, my total area ends up being 128. Okay, questions I can answer about this problem? Or how did you feel on it, or how did you do on it?
I took both of the shapes apart because there was like that missing information.
Yep.
And so I guess my question is, why don't we solve for those missing parts?
It's hard to hear you. It's like muffled.
I see that you did the perimeter of the square, and so you have the 4 8 there, right there on your equation. The 4 plus the 16 plus the 4. Yeah. So I see that, but then you only have the 16 and the 2 4s. So where would we go about for the missing other side?
For this?
No, for the ones on the side.
For these two?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let me erase what I have in here. So you understand how I have how I get all of these, right? You're just not getting this piece.
That piece is that red 8.
Right. Okay. So the red 8 is not part of the perimeter, right? It's just it's an imaginary line that I've made. But we know that this imaginary line is 8 because this is 8 up here, because this is a square, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not being added to my perimeter. You agree with that? Okay. So when I add up my perimeter, I added up all the blue numbers that I have, but I'm still missing this and I'm missing that. Agree with that? Okay. So my problem is I need to know what this is and I need to know what this is, right? I don't know what they are separately, but I know what they are if together. Okay, because if I draw a, oh my God, my back. Okay, if I extend this guy all the way down and I extend this guy all the way down, right? This 16 is a combination of question mark plus 8 plus my other question mark. So 16 equals this plus this plus this. So all I need to know is what these equal together. I don't care what they are separate. And so I can use this red 8 to figure out, okay, well, question mark and question mark have to equal 8 together. That's why. So we don't know if this is 4 and 4 to add up to 8. This could be a 6 and a 2 to add up to 8. It could be whatever, 4.1 and 3.9. All we have to know to find the perimeter is that they add up to equal 8. Okay, so use the information that you have and just, it really is just trying to break it down best you can. And the more practice problems you do like this, the better or easier that they get. Okay, but that is a really, really hard question because you kind of have to see it, right? Okay, other questions I can answer before we... Maya, are you good? Okay, so I didn't quite get to finish, but that's okay. We are probably going to, we'll do these because I really do want to do at least 2 of these with you, and then we will talk volume. Volume, I'll tell you kind of right now, I'm not too worried about volume. I think that for volume, things that you already know about area will really help you. So I think volume of a box, volume of a sphere, and then this triangle will probably be most helpful. So but I do really want to walk through these equations or these problems with you. So we'll do these on Tuesday. So that means that you should be able to do, maybe we'll hold off on the other math worksheet. Worksheet number 3. Actually, there's quite a bit of good stuff in here. I think math worksheet number 3, I'll just have you guys work to number 26, and then I would rather finish up some of this geometry with you on Tuesday. So I'll put that in our Facebook group, what to go up to, and then what you can do on number 4. And I will be posting answers for 1 and 2 in Facebook. They just take a minute because they're videos and they take a little bit to upload, but I'll get those done probably tomorrow. But anyway, so that's where we're at. I'll post what you guys can go to, and I want to practice some of that geometry with you guys on Tuesday. Okay. Other questions I can answer before we sign off.
When will you be starting science?
We are going to start science on Tuesday. So we'll just do this little bit of math, and then we'll start science, and then we'll just be doing science until the last day we do the English. So we'll be doing all science coming up. Okay. All right, ladies, have a great, is it Thursday? Have a great weekend.